Hi and welcome back to the second part of Sew the Trends. If you haven't seen part one, I will pop a link down below and you can go and watch that video and then come back to this. I hope you're enjoying it. So I will say that this is going to be a long video, so get yourself settled in. We've got a lot to get through. So I'm going to start with dresses, and I would say out of all of this, it was probably the most sad category, mainly because I couldn't find, apart from one option, I couldn't find a kind of united front on the dresses. It felt like an absolute splattergun approach to dresses from every store. There wasn't like a core trend that I could see. So I really only have one offering in the dress department. It does mean that sort of anything goes this season, which is quite nice. Again, as I said in the last video, I feel like the high street has also played it quite safe this season, and it felt like styles that I'd seen last summer have been repeated if they had obviously sold well. So yeah, the dress department is a bit sparse this time. So the main thing that I noticed, and again, it's quite a broad thing, is ruching, as I've called it, has been quite a feature. You can see the like me and M dress where they've got kind of ruching down the side of the dress. The Whistles one, there are a couple of these actually that sort of like tie at the side with jersey. The Zara dress, they're all, you can see this kind of some ruching and twisting and like kind of interesting details, but this was probably the only thing that I really found as a kind of, I guess, like kind of dress trend. So patterns for this, I've got 4 different options, and it's basically picking whichever one you'd like. The first one is the Notches Mariko top and dress. This is a PDF only pattern. Sizing on this is a UK 6 to 36. And you can see from this, it's a very simple, it's a really lovely pattern actually. Again, quite a classic item that you could reach for season upon season, but it just has this kind of gathering down the side seam, which means it adds a kind of bit of interest, little slits up the side. But yeah, a very lovely kind of simple pattern that I think, you know, kind of ticks the box, but it's also kind of a classic piece for the wardrobe. And that seemed to be like the overall kind of take home for me of this season of Sew the Trends. Right, next up we have got the Sew Over It Estelle dress, and this one I was really pleased with because I did see a few of this style with that little tie at the side. So this is a PDF only. Sizing on this is a UK 6 to 30, split into 2 size bandings, so just make sure you pick the right one. And yeah, it's a jersey pattern. You can see that it's got this tie at the side, which then adds this kind of I guess ruching detail to one side. It's a really lovely dress pattern. I was thinking this kind of ticks loads of different boxes. If you could wear this as a work dress, but you could also wear this at like a wedding as well. So it feels like a really nice option if you're looking for something like that. Then I picked something that the next 2 dresses have got some slight cutout detail, because I did notice that in a couple of the dresses that I showed you. So the pattern that I chose is the Vicky Sews Leora dress. This is PDF only, and sizing on this is a UK 6 to 20. And you can see that it's got this kind of central, it's really cool actually. So the central front panel has got these 2 channels sewn into it, in which a kind of tie feeds all the way around, and then you can kind of make it as ruched as you would like. And then it's kind of quite straight cut. I love this pattern actually. I think it's really clever and interesting, and I think you'd have fun making it because it isn't actually that hard, the construction of it, but it looks kind of more complicated than it is, which is a win-win. So yeah, that is another option. And then finally, I went kind of more cut out. The McCall's 8311 I thought was really great. It's got the kind of slash neck, it's got a little cutout at the waist, and then this kind of, I guess it must be a hoop sewn into it, or a kind of a channel sewn in elastic, I'm not sure. But I thought that would be another really good option because it kind of has a little bit of ruching, it's got a little bit of cutout, and again, that could be worn to lots of different things. So that is it on the dress department, which feels very wrong. I don't think I've ever had such a small dress department. Maybe it is because I will say we're in very early spring, you know, we're in mid-March. So I would imagine later on there'll be more stuff coming through. So maybe I can do a like early summer one, and then that would sort of bring it, there might be a bit more to add. We'll see. We shall see. So let's go into tops. The boxy shirt is here to stay. That I feel like this has been in for quite a few seasons now and it's still very much here. I'm excited because I love a shirt. You will notice that all of these are striped. There were striped shirts seem to be quite a big thing. I particularly liked that Whistles one with the pink and white. You can see the stripe is much chunkier. If you are thinking about making a boxy shirt, fabrication wise, stripes seem to be kind of in, and you can see actually the colours on this are kind of quite rainbowy, so you can just pick whatever you like in terms of colours. So I've got two patterns for you. The first one is the Closet Core Jenna shirt. This is just an absolute banger of a pattern. I think this is probably my favourite shirt pattern of all time, and that's a big say. This is paper only for this one. Sizing is a UK 6 to 34. It's got beautiful proportions. It's got a lovely kind of curved hem and it's got that kind of boxy shape, which I really love. The other option I chose is the Bella Loves Patterns Leo shirt. Now I put this one in because it felt like it had a couple of different details. Proportion wise, it's still quite boxy, but the bottom is cut straight and then it's got quite big feature pockets on the chest, which I really liked. And yeah, it felt, I guess, slightly more formal than the Jenna one, but they're both there, so whichever one you fancy would work perfectly. Next up, I called it the Gathered Neckline Blouse. Now, I saw a lot of these. I think, again, this is an absolute classic item for your wardrobe. Loads of different, it's such a classic shape, it'll never go out of style. And I feel like once you have nailed the fit and of one pattern for this, then you can just make it again year on year in different fabrics. It looks totally different. But yeah, there were some that were over the head, like kind of pullover ones, and some with button down the front. It didn't seem to matter which, so whichever is your preference. So I've picked one that buttons down the front and one that is a pullover. So the first pattern, it's a button down variation. It's the Silver Sarka Amelie blouse. This is such a gorgeous pattern if you haven't seen it. And this pattern would do something a bit further. So one of the other trends I saw was there was a lot of collar details for this summer. And so this would sort of tick two boxes. So in terms of, it's a good value, this one. So the Amelie blouse, you can see that it's buttons down the front, it's got gathering into the neckline. We're looking at the variation for this one, particularly without the kind of ruffle, but I mean, obviously you can have that in, but this one felt very close to what we'd seen and it really kind of ticked all the boxes. This is a PDF only, this one, and sizing is a UK 8 to 28. If you preferred the pull over your head variation, the Coralie Bijoson Estelle blouse would work, is a really great pattern. Perfect. PDF only for this one. Sizing is a UK 6 to 18. You can see that it's got the lovely little gathering round the neckline, little V pullover, and it cinches in at the cuff. So yeah, whichever variation you prefer would work perfectly. Then we have got the tie-fronted blouse. I was quite excited to see this because I know there are quite a few patterns in the indie remit for this. But yeah, a lot of these in the high street. Again, some of them were styled with nothing underneath, like the ASOS one, and then some of them you could have them with a little like strap top underneath, depending on what you prefer. But yeah, lots of iterations of that. The Whistles one that almost looks like a t-shirt but with a little bow, but this sort of standard one was with kind of 3 or 4 or 5 bows down the front. Luckily, there are some really great patterns for this, so we are in for a treat. The first pattern I had to, as soon as I saw it, I thought I have to put in the Fabric Godmother Fleur blouse. That's an absolute banger of a pattern. Everyone has gone bananas for it. It's been super popular. It's got lots of lovely features. It's got kind of puff sleeves, a little peplum, and then 3 ties down the front. It's PDF only for this one. Sizing is a UK 6 to 30. Now, if you want something a little bit more pared back, I thought that the puff and pencil tie blouse and cone sleeve would work really nicely. It's got 3 little ties down the front. It's very simple, nice little V-neck. And the sleeve on it is really beautiful as well. So that variation, that one is there if you want something a little bit more simple. It's PDF only, this one, and sizing is a UK 6 to 24. Then we've got another tie one, which again is quite simple, from Fibre Mood. I put this one in because it had kind of more ties, and it felt like if you wanted to wear it with nothing underneath, this one would kind of, I guess, like basically protect you a bit more, because the other one felt like only 3 ties almost wasn't enough for me personally. So I put this one in if you prefer a few more ties there. Sizing on this is PDF only. Sizing is a UK 6 to 30. Very simple cut. I mean, this is a nice speedy one. And the other thing about the tie front blouse is you don't have any fastenings. It's just making little like rouleau loops and just tying them. So to me, it feels like an absolute win. And then last but not least, I absolutely love this. If you want something that doesn't tie all the way down the front, but kind of adds a bit of a nod to it, the L Stitch Ginny top is perfect. So PDF only for this one. Sizing is a UK 6 to 30. It's such a lovely little like t-shirt with a nice detail. So you can see that it's got a binding that goes around the neckline and ties at the front. There's a second bow as well. So I think it's a really nice way of like, this feels like a very simple sort of t-shirt where you're adding a little nod, but you're not going kind of, if you want something a little bit more pared back, this is definitely the variation to have a look at. Right, next up in the top department, we have got the waistcoat. So this again follows on from last season. And I think I was saying, please could some indie designer release something very similar to what I'm showing you, and Named have come to our rescue. So this sort of button up, I will say that quite a lot of them were round necked rather than V-neck, which is the Named one is V-neck. But you could definitely change the neckline on that without it being like a massive kind of pattern alteration. But proportion wise, it felt very similar. The only thing, so actually let's have a look at the Named one and then I can talk through it a little bit more. So it's the Named Astery button down vest. This comes in sizes UK 6 to 28 and it's PDF only. So you can see that it's a slightly deeper V than some of them, buttons down the front, and then it's got patch pockets on the front. I would potentially, if you're trying to copy this, potentially leave the pockets off, because the variations I was showing you, none of them had pockets, which would be a simple modification. But if you did like that sort of round neckline, which seemed to kind of feature a little bit more, I definitely think you can make a tweak on that without it being like a huge deal. But yes, that one is there if you are looking for the waistcoat. I'm so pleased that someone answered our sewing prayers and did it, so thank you, Named. Next up, we're talking, I've called it big collar energy, lots of big collars. So this again spanned all the high streets, and you can see from the picture they came in different formats. You know, you can see this one that's very kind of square cut. You can see that the Nobody's Child one with a deeper V, the Whistles was high. You can see they're all quite different. So anything I've taken from this with a biggish collar is a kind of yes from the high street. So I have picked 4 different options for you guys. I mean, a lot of options. So the first one I've got is that slightly deeper V, like the Nobody's Child one, the Style Arc Kenny woven shirt. This is paper only for this one, and sizing on this is a UK 4 to 32. They're in 2 different size bandings, so just make sure you pick which one. Button down the front, it's got that lovely little ruffle as well. So this one felt like a really good, good option. Then if you like that kind of squarer neck, which I absolutely love, the Madswick Rosamond blouse is an absolute beauty. It's got a little tie as well. So you've got the tie as well as the kind of collar, and with buttons down the front. It's such a lovely pattern. So it's PDF only. Sizing on this is a UK 6 to 34. I'm just obsessed with this pattern. I know lots of people have really loved it as well. Then we have got something that feels like a mixture of 2. It's got the tie front, it's got a collar, it's got a bit of ruffle. There's a lot going on in this pattern and all very much on trend. The puff and pencil tie blouse with the lantern sleeve and the peggy collar. So it's sold as a bundle, but all the components are separate, which is how puff and pencil work, which is quite an interesting way of like making your patterns. So PDF only for this one. Sizing on this is a UK 6 to 24. And yeah, it's got lovely details. It's got a dropped sleeve with this kind of lantern, what's called the lantern sleeve with like detail. It's got, yeah, the collar, the ruff. I mean, it's a really sweet pattern. So if you are looking for something that kind of you want a tie front and a big collar, this is another good option. And then last but not least, this is like the OG of the frilly collar. It's the Bakerloo blouse from Nina Lee. This has been around for ages and it's such a good pattern. And this is if you want to go like big collar, which I am always pro. PDF only for this one. Sizing is a UK 6 to 28. And this is great if you want to wear this with stuff over the top because there's no buttons down the front. So it's quite a simple construction and you just have all the detail on this big kind of beautiful collar. And then there is a little kind of channel of elastic at the cuff you can see, which adds this kind of quite sweet little ruffle detail. I mean, the dress variation of this is lovely as well. So it's been around for a while and it's such a good pattern. So if you are looking at big collar, this one is definitely worth having a look at. Now we move into trousers. The first thing that I noticed is these super wide-legged trousers. These were everywhere and they came in sort of two different kind of camps. The first camp is with an elasticated waist. There were quite a lot of those, like the Nobody's Child and M&S. And then there were also this kind of oversized tailored trouser like the Zara and Other Stories. So depending on what you prefer, or if you want an easy make, go for the elasticated waist, and if you want something a bit more tailored, you can go that direction too. I've got 3 different patterns, so I went for something that felt like kind of the most tailored, middle tailored, and then an elasticated waist, so depending on where you want to be. So the first one, the kind of most tailored, is the Atelier Dupe Blake trousers. These felt great because they're really nice and wide. They've got pleats at the front. They're just a really beautiful pattern. So if you are looking for something kind of big and chunky and wide and tailored, these ones would definitely be worth having a look at. They are paper only and sizing on these is a UK 8 to 26. Next up, for a slightly less kind of, I really love these actually, the Pauline Alice Tarda trousers. These are PDF only and sizing on these is UK 6 to 22. The interesting detail about these is they've got a button fastening like 2/3 of the way around the leg so that you can kind of, you almost have like a pleat at the side of the trouser. If I show you a picture, you can sort of see, which then adds so much more volume into the leg of the trouser, which gives it that kind of lovely proportion which we're looking at. And then it's got a couple of pleats around the front as well. So it's a really lovely pattern actually, and I hadn't noticed this detail on it before. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's definitely worth going and having a look at. And then elasticated waist option is the ready to sew Joanne culottes. Now I will say, looking at these, you can see that these are cropped. All you would need to do is lengthen them, but they had the kind of right proportion. I like the little paper bag detail at the top of the elastic as well. It kind of makes it feel a bit more special. But yeah, if you just extended those, you'd get the kind of really wide leg. And you can see actually that these have the interesting details. They've got this kind of double seam that goes down the outside of the leg, which is really cool as well. I always like it when a pair of trousers have something like a little bit extra going on that you don't necessarily notice. So these are PDF only and sizing on them is a UK 4 to 16. Next up is the barrel trouser. This leg shape has been around for a while, but it felt very kind of, I don't know, it just felt like there was a lot of this in the shops. And I love this shape leg as well, so I was quite chuffed to see it. You can see that it definitely falls probably more strongly into the denim department, but there were also some, like the Arquette one, there's some kind of canvas options, like chino versions of the barrel leg as well. So I've got 3 different options for you. I've got a classic denim option. I've got something that would feel slightly more chino-y in terms of you're picking the fabrics for the pattern. And then I've got pick one which I thought would work really nicely in a lighter weight fabric. And actually their sample they've made in linen. And I thought, you know, with summer coming, this could be a nice kind of summer option. So let's start with the denim, the Itch to Stitch Belleville jeans. I love the shape of these. They're cut just on the ankle, which lots of the high street ones were. This is PDF only. Sizing on it is a UK 6 to 36. So those are really great if you're looking for the denim. If you were thinking slightly more chino, I absolutely love, I mean, obviously you can make these in denim as well, and I'll show you a picture of them in both. The assembly line barrel leg trousers, these are absolutely fab, like just amazing. I absolutely love them. And they're slightly, you can see that these ones are slightly more extreme cut than the itch to stitch ones. So if you want something a little bit more exaggerated, these are definitely the way to go. And then last but not least, we've got the Style Arc Twig woven pant. Sizing on this is a UK 4 to 30, but yeah, I really like the kind of pleat detail, or the kind of stitch detail down the front of the trouser, but you can definitely see that sort of barrel leg shape. So those could be a really nice option if we're thinking kind of summery. Then we have got, I've called it the wide and crop. So these are wide leg trousers and also wide leg crop variations. I quite like that really you could just buy one pattern and make two different options. So I've put in, I've got 3 different options for you to kind of look at and see which one works for you, but really you could buy a longer one and then cut it off depending on what you would like. First up, if you want something that isn't quite as exaggerated wide leg, I thought this kind of nod, it was a nod to it. The Sohow 7 Oxbow pants. These also look great as a cropped option. You could just turn them up, and I'll show you the turn up option, and they would work really well. So this kind of ticks both boxes. This is a PDF pattern, and sizing on this is a UK 6 to 38. So it's got a really good size range on it. So that's a kind of slimmer, slightly slimmer cut. A kind of bigger, wider leg, the Pauline Alice Reeg trousers. These are PDF only, and sizing on this is a UK 6 to 22. You can see that this is a much wider cut leg on this pattern, so that one kind of ticks the really wide. If you love the kind of cropped variation, I thought the So Liberated Pinion pants would be perfect. To be honest with you, you could also just extend these and make them full length as well if you wanted to. Sizing on these is a UK 6 to 34, PDF only for this one. But yeah, this is such a lovely pattern. I know loads of people have loved this one. So if you're thinking wider leg trouser, this is definitely worth having a little look at. And now we move into the skirt department. So we've got a few nice options actually. So this skirt variation, I wasn't quite sure what to call it. Basically it has a seam at the upper thigh and then gathering into it. And this style I saw in a few shops, and actually it's quite an interesting take. You can see that the length of the skirt is midi, and the other stories ones are slightly longer. So that's the sort of proportion we're looking lengthwise. I've got 2 different options for this. The first one, and in terms of the length on this, is absolutely perfect. The Patterns Room Tina skirt, which was really lovely. It's PDF only. Sizing on it is a UK 8 to 24. You can see that it's kind of cut straight across the kind of middle of the, I guess, called upper thigh, and then there's gathering, and then length they've cut it as a kind of maxi skirt, but you could also make it a little bit shorter if you wanted it midi. But I thought that one was quite interesting. It also has panels down the side, so you can get the shaping good on that fitted up a bit as well for this one. Then I picked one because the other variation had a kind of curved seam, which I thought was quite interesting. And I didn't think I was going to be able to find that, but actually I did. And it's a Sew Over It Neve skirt. So this is a PDF only, and sizes UK 6 to 30 for this one. It also finishes kind of midi length. You could cut it shorter. There's an option if you wanted a bit shorter. But yeah, it had that kind of curved shape, which I thought was really nice. And yeah, I was quite pleased to have found kind of both options. Next up we have, yet again, the slip skirt. I feel like this style is never going to go. I feel like I've spoken about this every season for the last 3 years. I was hoping, I saw it everywhere and I was like, maybe I just won't include it, but it really was in lots of different shops. So it's a public service announcement that the slip skirt is still very much here. Pattern wise, I've got 3 options for you. The first one, if you wanted something slightly longer, the Vicky Sews Sati skirt. This comes in sizes UK 6 to 20. Yeah, and it's bias cut for all of these. So yeah, and this one doesn't have an elasticated waist, so it's definitely a little bit more fitted. There's darts at the back. So that one is if you want something kind of a little bit, why would you want something more restrictive? But there isn't the kind of elasticated waistband. Then we've got the Tessuti Avery skirt. Now I put this one in because it is cut slightly A-line, so it's got a bit more flare in the skirt. I think this is a really nice option, and the pictures that I showed you, some of them have got a little bit more flare in them, and again, this is such a classic shape. So that one is available. And then the Tessuti Evie bias skirt, sorry, 2 Tessutis in a row, but they were just absolutely perfect. So this is like the classic OG bias skirt. Actually, this one has been around for quite a long time. So sizing on this is a UK 8 to 20, and it's paper only for this one. So those two are available depending on whether you want it slightly straighter or a bit more flared or longer. So I feel like I've ticked all the slip skirt options. And then last but not least, a lovely classic, which I feel like is the sort of thing that most people made for their first ever item of bottoms when they were sewing, an elasticated waist skirt, which I was absolutely delighted to see, to be honest. So cut kind of midi length, slightly kind of A-line shape, and lots of different, you can see in iterations. The And Other Stories one is made in a very beautiful kind of dressy fabric. The Nobody Child is in a linen, the John Lewis is in a cotton, so kind of really whatever floats your boat. So I've got 2 patterns again for this one. The first one is the Atelier Dupe Stina skirt. This is paper only and sizes UK 8 to 26. You can see that this one is cut ever so slightly shorter, so I would just potentially lengthen it a bit. But yeah, very simple. The reason that this one doesn't look kind of as flared as the other one is that it's made in a viscose, so there's a bit more drape on this one. And then finally, the other pattern I chose was the Assembly Line Elastic Waist Maxi Skirt. You can see that it's got the proportions perfect. It's got lovely deep pockets. This is such a great pattern if you haven't come across it before. It is paper only, and sizing on it is a UK 8 to 30 for this one. So that is it from me. I hope you found something nice to sew for spring. There's a lot to digest. There will be a blog post so you can go and have a look at everything, because I feel like that was like a visual assault. But I hope it was useful and you found something nice to sew for spring. I'll be back soon with another video. Bye.